It's
Let's
now
ride.
time for the words that are recited before each and every game here at Dodger Stadium. Take it away, Finn.
It's time for Dodger baseball.
Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Incline Dodgers podcast. This will be the closeout episode of the 2022 season. And I'm lost for words because this season did not end how I think any of us Dodgers fans had hoped or anticipated. They were eliminated by the San Diego Padres in 4 games, meaning they won just one measly postseason game this season. I'm just speaking for myself here, but this is the most embarrassed I've ever actually felt as a Dodgers fan. Maybe it's not the most disappointed because we've had worse. The 2017 World Series sticks out to me. 2018 World Series, maybe even 2019, although maybe we'll get into that. This feels worse than 2019. Despite going 111-51 this season and 14-5 during the regular season against the San Diego Padres, they did lose in 4 games. They were outscored by the Padres 15-12, meaning the Dodgers averaged 3 runs a game, well below their season average. They went 5 for 34 with runners in scoring position. That is probably the number one killer right there. So they batted 147 versus a 272 season average with runners in scoring position. And at the end of the day, this will go down as the second biggest upset statistically in MLB history. The 111-win Dodgers were knocked off by an 89-win Padres team. This is also the first 109-plus win team ever to not reach the championship series. So congrats to the Dodgers on that. We'll get into who stays and who goes. And I'm just going to set this up now, and I'll deliver more on this later. I'm going to state my case why Dave Roberts needs to be fired as the Dodgers manager. Let me get everyone else's words in here. David Rosenthal, I'll pass it over to you. This is never easy, but let me hear what's on your mind.
I'm honestly just shocked at how utterly bad they performed in that series. I mean, I don't know what the final numbers were with runners in scoring position. I haven't bothered to look it up, but
Literally just said
was astronomically terrible. Astronomically terrible. I honestly don't even know what to say. I mean, there's a lot we can get into here about what the how and the why, but my overall feeling is just, I don't care. That's just not okay. If you're going to have a team that wins 111 games, you're going to have that payroll, you're going to have that experience. You can't do that. You just can't do that. The San Diego Padres played better and they earned that series. The Dodgers looked lifeless. They did not look like they cared. I'm not saying they didn't care because obviously they care, but the demeanor on the field, in the clubhouse, and the post-game interviews, especially after game 3, was like a funeral. It looked like a funeral home. It looked like they had better things to do. It looked like Mookie Betts wanted to go bowling and not play baseball. It was a somber tone, and there was absolutely no energy. And then factor that in to the on-field play, you got a guy, Freddie Freeman, who puts a 2-run double on the board, and you're not seeing any celebrations. You're seeing barely any high fives. You're seeing golf claps in the dugout. That's not how you play in the postseason. You got to have fire, and you got to act like you care, because I know you do care, but you got to show it. That's how you win series, and that's exactly what the San Diego Padres did.
Well said. Yes. I think that the Dodgers are going to need a huge culture shakeup this offseason. There are a number of free agents who we'll discuss in a few minutes. As David mentioned, it just felt like the Dodgers didn't play with the same enthusiasm that you see around the rest of Major League Baseball postseason qualified teams. The Freddie Freeman double is a perfect example. And anytime anyone hit a home run, the dugout looked pretty lifeless. Anyone on the Padres, Machado going deep, all the teammates are backing it up. They all look fired up. They get base hits, and Soto, Machado, Grissom, Profar, you go down the line, every single player looked pumped up. And one of the post-game quotes that came after game 3 that really bugged me about Mookie Betts was saying we all drive fancy cars. Well, maybe the Dodgers are overpaying their players at this point, and there's just too much comfortability in the Dodgers dugout. I don't know if it's the fact that a lot of these players have been in 7+ consecutive postseasons now, and they're just not fired up. I think back to 2020 when we heard Alex Wood and I think Kike say they couldn't get up for that series until they were down in 3-1 hole, also at the helm of Dave Roberts. But I am very disappointed. And I thought that the Dodgers would play with more fire. I thought they would expect that this is World Series or bust. And I know that they all want to win, but they're just not giving it to us. So what say you, Jake Reiner?
Oh, I think I went through multiple stages of grief. And the first emotion that I felt was just stunned. And I think when I was first stunned was in that 7th inning, because I knew when the dust settled and we were down 5-3 that it was over. And that doom and gloom feeling that you have for the rest of the 2 innings where you just know nothing good is going to happen. And that's the end of your season. It's like a slow walk towards the plank. And it's happened in many a postseason before. Then I went to disbelief. I couldn't believe that this is where we were at the end of the season, that this is how we went out. Then immediate rage. Absolutely. I'm still mad. Then I went into shock and then rage again. And I've been in rage pretty much all day. Of all the teams that you could afford to lose to, the one that you could afford to lose to least was the San Diego Padres. You just absolutely could not have lost to them. And it showed. It showed like they didn't care whether or not they beat or lost to this team. I agree with David on that front. The attitude was off. They needed to have the mentality that there was no way in hell this was going to happen. And of course, there's plenty of blame to go around. I don't think that it stops and ends with Dave Roberts, although we'll get into it, how he really screwed us in game 4. But overall, we talked about this many times before. It was the offense. They just couldn't score. And it's not the fact that they couldn't score, but it was that they couldn't score when they needed to. They either couldn't get the run that they needed to, or they couldn't put the game out of reach and just coast to the end. They made it so difficult on themselves. And this team in no way resembled what we were seeing from them the entire season. And if they were even half of what we know them to be, they would have won this series. The Padres didn't play that much better than the Dodgers. They outplayed the Dodgers for sure, but they didn't blow the Dodgers out of the water. That's how good this Dodgers team was, that even at, 20% effectiveness from the offense, that they still made it as close as it was every single game is crazy to me. Yep. But they still had a chance in game 4 to push it to a game 5. And I bet you if they win game 4, they come back to LA and they fucking win game 5. I bet you they did that, but they couldn't close it out in game 4. Now, like I said, I'll wrap this up, but I'm fired up. The Padres did earn it. They won it fair and square. A lot of credit goes to how they hit, how they played near flawless defense, getting the timely hit when they needed, and simply at sometimes just fucking putting the ball in play.
And Bob Melvin having the complete read on bullpen management.
He did. But their hitters just put the ball in play. Austin Nola in the 7th inning of game 4, just put the ball in play, and Freeman could make the play, whatever, but the run scored on that. The Dodgers couldn't do that. There were too many strikeouts. And I think that there are certain intangibles that you do need for an October run. You need that passion. You need that fire. Every time the freaking Padres got a base runner, their entire dugout erupted. Like David said, when Freddie Freeman ripped that 2-run double, it was just like, all right, good job, pal.
Yeah,
like
you're
it's the
fighting
regular
for your
season.
goddamn life in game 4, and you put yourself up 2 runs, and you don't even look like you give a shit.
I know.
This is a business, but at the end of the day, it's a game. Period. And you got to act like it's a game. You got to act like you're in Little League playing for the championship. And you got to show emotion. You got to care. We got too many boring family-oriented white guys on this team who just do the same thing every single time. It's the same thing every time. No emotion, nothing. I can't do another Chris Taylor persona in the offseason. I just can't do it. There's just no emotion. There's no fire. And at the end of the day,
also,
if you get hits with runners in scoring position, sure, it's fine. You can still win. But when you don't, the other team stomps on your throat and makes it so you can't get up and breathe. And that is what happened in the series. That is what happened after the 7th inning. There was no chance. Every fan in the stadium, every fan watching at home knew when the Padres got 5 runs to our 3, those last 6 at-bats, 6 outs didn't matter. It was over, completely over.
Yeah, the 7th inning decided this game on both sides. First of all, the Dodgers were up 2-0. They were able to load the bases. Will Smith got a sac fly. Bob Melvin pulls the strings, brings in Tim Hill, and it looks like the Dodgers are about to do something great. They get a double steal. You now have 2nd and 3rd, 1 out. Max Muncy up at the plate facing Tim Hill. He strikes out. That leaves Justin Turner, who hadn't done a damn lick this whole series. He grounds out, ends the inning. So the Dodgers take a 3-0 lead into the bottom of the 7th. Dave Roberts goes with Tommy Kahnle, and I didn't mind the move because
before we talk about that, can we just talk about the top half of that inning real quick? That top half of the inning, I knew it. I knew it when Max Muncy struck out with runners at 2nd and 3rd and 1 out. I was like, we're fucked. We're fucked. They needed at that point to put the game out of fucking reach.
Yep.
4 runs, 5 runs, that's it. Then you don't have to worry about it. But a 3-run deficit is just not enough. And you just knew at that point that it just wasn't enough runs. It just wasn't. Didn't feel comfortable. Didn't feel like they had control of this game. Felt like San Diego was in it. And that was really the microcosm of this whole series, is that even when the Dodgers had a lead or were trailing, they just let San Diego off the hook every single time. They had multiple pitchers of theirs on the ropes, including their relievers, who did a really good job against us.
Going back to game 1.
Exactly. The game 1 was they almost blew it.
Okay, but you might have not felt comfortable, but let's be honest. A 3-run lead at that point in the game, you felt like the Dodgers bullpen, if they had pushed the right buttons, in theory, should have been able to hold it.
Yes. But it just was a theme the whole series.
I said it for weeks now. 5 runs is what you need in the playoffs. You need 5 runs. If they had got to 5 that inning, San Diego doesn't have that momentum. They just don't. They simply don't. You give up 3 runs, you're still okay. You need 6 more outs, and you have some of your top relievers left. You just let them off the hook every single game in that series.
And the fact that Will Smith was the only guy to knock in a run with a sac fly, that was a win for San Diego. That was a complete and utter
frankly,
win for them.
I give him a pass, honestly. I mean, he had the birth of his child that same day, so I'm not really going to blame him for any kind of performance or non-performance. That's just a tough situation. I mean, you got to just choose to have sex a little bit earlier or a little bit later when you're making a baby and not during the postseason, but that's about it, man.
Well, he shouldn't play then.
Advice.
Shouldn't play then if he's not ready. Austin,
I mean, obviously he's going to say he's ready, but if you just had a kid, I'm not really.
Who gives a shit? He still knocked in a run, and it's more than you can say for most of those guys in the lineup.
Yeah, but I mean, he did not have a good series.
It was terrible.
He went 3 for 16.
Yeah, and he did not have a good game either. I mean, he knocked in that run, but what did he leave? 3 men on base at least.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get to what else happened, which kind of involves Will Smith in a second on one right now. So Tommy Kahnle, like I was trying to say, came in to open the inning. Didn't mind the move. Now, given we didn't have a huge sample size on him, but he looked fine. But when he gave up the leadoff walk and then the base hit, the smoking single to Trent Grissom, you're like, oh shit, got to get someone else up. And then Austin Nola drove in a run with an infield base hit. So we have 1st and 2nd. Now it's a 3-1 game, nobody out. And this is where the biggest Dave Roberts blunder of this season came. Instead of going with your fireman, your best reliever, something we had been talking about all season, when you get in these situations, this is where the game is won or lost. You go with your best reliever. And instead of going with Evan Phillips, who basically had a 1 ERA over a full season, he went with Yency Almonte. And that's not to put down Almonte because he's a damn good reliever, but he's not Evan Phillips. What ends up happening is the Padres tie the game, and then somehow Almonte starts to bounce back. He gets the next 2 outs. He gets a kind of an infield foul out to it doesn't matter.
Freeman,
but there's 2 outs.
Freeman.
There's 2 outs. There's still runners on base. Almonte gets in a 1-0 count. After the game, apparently Will Smith, there was some confusion. Anyways, Roberts pulls the strings, goes with Alex Vesia in a 1-0 count. You already kind of knew Vesia was cold because he barely had any time to warm up, but he goes to him anyways. They said Alex Vesia said he was ready, but I highly doubt that. It ends up in a 2-run single off Jake Cronenworth. That's where the Dodgers trail 5-3. And I mean, moral of the story is Roberts' bullpen management, low IQ once again. And that's the decisive factor of that game.
I will say this about the Evan Phillips non-move. It's not so much that Evan Phillips is a better reliever than Yency Almonte, which we know he is, and he is the Dodgers' best reliever on the team. No doubt about that. But it's not even about that. It's about the fact that Evan Phillips, all season long, they put him on the mound with traffic on the bases. And how many times, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I remember anecdotally how many times he was able to escape jams with runners on base and strand them in the most high leverage of situations you can get in the regular season. What the fuck are you keeping him for? Robert said after the game that he was going to hold on to him for the 9th. Why all of a sudden are you changing the fucking plan?
It's the Kimbrel meme. It's the Kimbrel left in the Dodgers bullpen when he was with the Braves when Juan Uribe hit the home run. It's literally the meme coming to life.
What on earth are we doing? It's like you follow the script to a T, right? You don't let Tyler Anderson face the Padres order a 3rd time in a row. So you follow that script. So if you're following that script, why aren't you bringing in Phillips to put out the fucking fire?
Speaking of Tyler Anderson, he got pulled way too early.
Here's what I want to say. I didn't mind pulling Tyler Anderson when they did. I really didn't. Yes, he only had 86 pitches. Yes, he was, laboring a little bit, but he could have gone another inning, but I didn't mind it. The problem is he tried to steal 3 outs with Tommy Kahnle. Chris Martin did a great job in the 6th inning against the heart of the Padres order. You're up 3-0. That's 3 innings. You need 9 outs. You have Almonte, Phillips, and Vesia, your 3 best relievers. He tried to steal 3 outs with Tommy Kahnle instead of shortening the game. And what I mean by shortening the game is something he's done all year long. He's done it in the playoffs. He's done it in the regular season. He's done it in years past. He brings in an elite reliever, which he just did in the previous fucking inning. He shortened the game by bringing in his closer, Chris Martin, in the 6th inning to shorten the game, to give his offense a chance to add on more runs by using a high leverage reliever in the earlier innings. And he didn't do that. All he had to do was bring in Vesia, Almonte, or Phillips in the 7th inning. He tried to get away with a sneaky one on San Diego and get Tommy Kahnle, who, yes, has been good, but yes, was pitching on a back-to-back. I knew, what did I text in the group chat? The second Tommy Kahnle walked that first batter, I said, we lose. The game is over. I knew it from the start. I've seen it too much with Dave Roberts. He tries to get too cute. He has a script that works for him, and he just completely abandons it in an instant. He followed it in the previous inning. And then you get the 7th inning. He completely throws it away. It doesn't make any logical sense.
And the other thing that doesn't make any logical sense is bringing Almonte in that situation where, yes, he's a good reliever, but how many times has he been tested putting out fires in the middle of an inning? Not that many. I can't remember. They usually give him a clean inning. So if you're going to bring in Almonte and Phillips is ready to go and Vesia, you got to go with one of those 3. I agree with you. But also if they do go with Canely, who has been lights out, he just didn't have command, then you got to go with Phillips to put out the fire. End of story. That had to be the plan.
But of those 3 guys I listed, how often do they not have command? Never, ever. You are fighting for your season. You need 9 outs. You can't throw a guy who sometimes doesn't have command, who hasn't been healthy only until 3-4 weeks ago, has barely thrown in back-to-backs. I think it's been 2 before this outing. You can't do it. He threw away his own script.
I mean, Almonte was out for 2 months too, so I don't really get your argument of Almonte over Canely to start.
But we've seen Tommy Canely have no command. I haven't seen Almonte not have command. Have you? Ever?
No. I mean, up until that point, he had gotten, I think, 5 outs in that series, and they were all strikeouts.
Yeah. I mean, just give him the inning. Just give him the 7th inning. Shorten the game. Give your offense
you're right. They
chance.
didn't even need to go to Canely. There was no need for it.
There was no need. You have your 3 best relievers available. Pick and choose which inning you want to give them. Just send those guys out there. Don't let your season come down to someone who we've barely seen in 2 years as a Dodger on a back-to-back who is known to have command issues. You just can't do that, and he did it.
Well, I mean, Roberts pulled Tyler Anderson way too early. That's one of the biggest issues whatsoever. He had 86 pitches. He was going to face the top of the order, including Juan Soto, a lefty who hadn't seen him well. And that's how you get into these messes. If you don't believe in your pitchers, can't let them go 100 pitches. I mean, the Yankees let Garrett Cole go over 100 pitches and they won. I've seen other teams.
I mean, that's the difference, right? Is that the Yankees really didn't have a lot of guys to go to in that bullpen. The problem is Roberts had too many options and he just went with the wrong one.
Exactly. We can criticize the possibly premature Anderson pull, but I really think it was an okay substitution. I really do. We're not.
But he had the script to do it.
He had it. He literally Martin, Almonte, Vesia, Phillips. There's your 4 innings. There's your 4.
I mean, Almonte got
There's
blown up too.
innings.
So how do you know he was going to get unscathed?
Because they put him in the middle of a fire.
He did not get
fire of an
blown up.
inning.
He didn't get blown up.
Yeah, he did.
He got two huge
hits.
outs.
He gave up the inherited runs though. You're just hypothetical.
You're not understanding though, man.
I don't think Tommy Canely being thrown under the bus is fair.
I'm not throwing Tommy Canely under the bus. I'm saying Dave Roberts' decision to use him was asinine. Period. He's not one of your 3 best relievers. He has no business being on the mound there. None. 0. Absolutely no business.
He closed out games in the 9th.
What games? Playoff games? No.
Well, no, because they only played 4 playoff games.
Okay, was Vesia, Phillips, and Almonte available when he did that? Or did they pitch in the game already? Or were they unavailable that day? That's my point. Your season is on the line. You have the script to do it. Tyler Anderson gave you 5 shutout innings. Chris Martin gave you a shutout 6th. You have your 3 best guys, and you didn't use them. If you're going to criticize Dave Roberts for his bullpen management, that is the issue. That. And then bringing in Almonte instead of Phillips is also a reasonable criticism. But again, I was fine with the Almonte substitution. I didn't like pulling him for Vesia. I mean, he was rolling. Yes, you want the left on left outing matchup, but if Almonte's rolling, I let him face Cronenworth.
It was all bad, but you have to go with Evan Phillips instead of Almonte in that situation.
Yeah, you
just have to do it.
I agree.
And pulling Tyler Anderson on 86 pitches has been a common Roberts theme since his entire tenure. He's barely let anyone go past the 5th inning. No one's ever going over 100 pitches. Tyler Anderson was absolutely cruising. The Padres had no answer for him. He didn't
touch him. Didn't touch him.
Exactly. His changeup was on point. They barely made him work whatsoever. You don't pull a guy who is just in complete command and then pass it over to your bullpen. That's where things go wrong.
It's just the most inconceivable chain of events. You have Roberts just head scratching moves. Like, if you were going to bring Vesia in, why was he not already up? We were already in trouble when he brought Almonte in. When you bring him in, that's when you got to have Vesia up. just in case this were to happen.
It's Dave Roberts. He has
It's
no.
like
He completely panicked, man. He completely panicked.
It just sucks because it's like, bro, you've been here before a lot. This is not a rookie manager anymore.
No,
This is unacceptable.
it is.
All right. Well, I think I'm just going to lay it out there right now. It's time for the Dodgers to move on from Dave Roberts. First of all, guaranteeing that they're going to win the World Series and then being bounced in the NLDS winning one postseason game is the most laughable offense I've ever been a part of. I didn't like it when he said it from the get-go in the offseason because that just puts a bigger target on your back. When you're the opposing team and you're playing the Dodgers, all you have to tell your players is, remember that asshole who said he's guaranteeing they're going to win the World Series? Let's prove them wrong. And I'm sure that's something that motivated the Padres all season. Second of all, anytime the Dodgers were in adversity, I didn't see Dave Roberts do anything other than just sit there and looking stupid. I didn't see him go to any players. I didn't see him even go up to any pitchers that were struggling, talk about any game plan. The turning point for the Padres was early September. They got humiliated in a series. Bob Melvin called them out to the media. They turned it on from that point on. Not once did I see Dave Roberts, when they were down in this series or down in any game, show any signs of worry whatsoever. The Blake Snell interview where he said he liked the way they were attacking him or thought they were putting up good at bats. No, they weren't. And what is this preparation? Every postseason, they come in, half the time they're cruising during the regular season, and they come in looking like blind ducks. They have no game plan. 2019, Strasburg, Scherzer own them. This time, Blake Snell, Yu Darvish, Joe Musgrove own them. There's one denominator here, and it's the culture that Dave Roberts is setting.
Well, look, here's the thing. All the things that you just mentioned, Dave Roberts will never do. That's not who he is. He is going to do that for the rest of his life. He's not going to suddenly turn into Tommy Lasorda, even though that would be great. And it would be great if the Dodgers were able to get a manager like that. And I think that that's why we've had a lot of these sleepy playoff bounces or not even making the playoffs. It's just been a string of sleepy managers since Tommy Lasorda. And Dave Roberts is kind of along that same cloth. We know how good he is in the clubhouse. We know the players seem to like him and all of that stuff. But the truth of the matter is that he's had these great rosters year in and year out, and there's always some fucking bullshit that happens with him. Always. There's always something where he affects the game more than a manager ever should. And he affects it negatively, which is obviously the bad thing. I don't understand it. It's like he hasn't learned from what has been his past failings. And it's so, and the thing that is so frustrating is that it's so predictable every time. I mean, it's like, oh my God, but you're not going to get that out of him. You're not going to suddenly get that out of him. So while I don't think that the entirety of this current series, this loss of the Padres falls all on his shoulders, I just don't think that he's the guy. I think that you've got to make some type of change. You've got to alter something. You've got to change the dynamic. It's too comfortable. It's too, I mean, he's just, I don't know what he's like in the clubhouse, but it doesn't seem like he gets after anybody or is upset. And the only guy he really picks on is fucking Cody Bellinger for some reason. It makes no sense. None of it does.
So I agree. Something needs to change. I don't think they're going to fire him. They've already said they're going to bring him back. Obviously, they can change their mind at any point. I know. But I honestly don't know what else he can do. I mean, this is who he is. Like Jake just said, he's not just going to change. The culture needs to change. First of all, Van Scoyoc needs to be out of a job 100%. That this performance offensively for the past 2 seasons has been atrocious. The approach at the plate is terrible. The only ones who produce are the perennial all-stars. Everybody else's approach at the plate has been garbage. The only success story is Gavin Lux. And I attribute that to basically just Gavin Lux himself. When's the last time somebody not, who's a perennial all-star has burst onto the scene?
Trace
the
Thompson.
past 2 years. Are you really going to give that to Van Scoyoc though? I'm not. Personally, I'm not. And I'm saying something needs to change, and I don't think it's going to be Dave Roberts. But if Dave Roberts is the manager, there needs to be a culture shift. They are extremely way too comfortable. I mean, he is the best regular season manager in baseball history. I'm comfortable saying that. Regular season, he's on fire. Yes, he shits his pants 5 times, maybe 10 times a year, but who doesn't? Everybody shits their pants a little bit as a manager. In the playoffs, he panics. It's like he is so stressed out, he just panics. And it happens every single postseason, even when they won in 2020. He panicked in Tampa Bay in game 4 against Tampa Bay, completely panicked. And he basically lost the game for us. Yes, Kenley Jansen is pretty much to blame, but who put Kenley Jansen in the game there? And he wasn't doing it before, and then he decides to go to Kenley Jansen. No. So look, I don't know what the hell has to happen, but you're right. You're absolutely right. Something needs to change, and it's a cultural issue in the playoffs. They're too comfortable. They're treating the playoffs like the regular season, and you can't do that.
And also, if I could just say one quick thing there, for whatever reason, it seems like they can't get motivated or fired up straight out of the gate. These past 2 seasons have been such a struggle to get up and get going and get some momentum going in these series. That it was like, even in 2020 when they won the whole thing, it was like when they were facing Atlanta in the NLCS, it was like, where the hell are these guys? And then there was one random game where they scored like 26 runs in the first inning. I don't understand why it takes this back against the wall mentality to finally start producing. And it's funny because in game 4, that's the best the offense looked the entire series, given the first few innings of game 1. But other than that, I don't understand. There's just, there needs to be a hungriness there. It just isn't there. And you see it with other teams. That's why you've got the Padres and the Phillies in the NLCS. That's why the Mets are out. That's why we're out. That's why the Yankees
are hungry. They're hungry.
Why the Yankees are on the brink of elimination going to a game 5 against the Guardians. I mean, come on.
I just don't see that these
cultural
guys are
tone.
hungry.
Cultural tone is always going to start with the manager. And what more can we do? 1 World Series in 7 seasons with the highest payroll, all these wins is not enough. Get to give them a pass in 2017 and 2018. But in 2019, losing with 106 wins to the Nationals in a game 5, that was kind of the start of this wear and tear. 2020, they won, thank God, but he almost lost it for them in that Atlanta Braves series. He left Kershaw out there to die. The whole Tony Gonsolin thing was a mess.
The Pedro Baez thing.
Yes, the Baez, the Gratterall. 2021, they were down there again, 1-2 to the Giants. That time they actually were able to wake up and come back. But the whole Urias debacle and just mismanaging the rotation.
But like even last year when the offense was kind of dead, they still had some life in them. There were some dramatic moments with Cody Bellinger and AJ Pollock and Chris Taylor. There was some real grit and some real fight in there. There were none of those moments in this series where you felt like this team's going to come back. You felt that throughout the entire regular season when the Dodgers were at a deficit during a game, it was just like, I don't have any worries. I know that they always have a shot to come back. And it just felt like every time they got down, especially in that game 3, when they were down 2-1, felt like they were down by 10 runs.
There was nothing memorable about this postseason. It's a shame given they won 111 wins. 106 last season, get bounced in the NLCS. 111 this year, win 1 playoff game. We are talking about the Doc Rivers of baseball, the Bobby Cox of this era where the Braves won 14 divisions and got 1 World Series out of it. The Doug Collins, Bulls predecessor to Phil Jackson, the Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr. I mean, what more can Dave Roberts do to wake these guys up? I really think the only 2 options here are blow up a number of the roster, which we'll talk about which guys I think are going to go next, or it starts with the manager.
I got a question for you guys. If Dave Roberts was the manager of any other team, and he started when he started in 2016, would he still be in a job? Any other team? Would he still have his job? Or would he have been fired?
Well, it's hard to. It depends on the team. If it was like the Marlins, maybe because they don't care. If it was the Phillies, probably not.
I'm saying an emphatic no. I really don't think he would. I really don't think he would have lasted this long if he didn't have these rosters.
Well,
I think
it's their guy, and he listens to what they say, and that's what they like.
That's not a reason to keep him. And I'm not saying to fire him. I'm not saying
that that's my reason why they should keep him.
Of the three of us, I am the one most okay with keeping Dave Roberts. Can you say why? But I'm saying, no, I said of the three of us, I'm the one most okay with keeping him.
I'm saying, can you say why you're the most okay with keeping him?
Who else are you going to get? If you don't have
anybody but Don Mattingly at this point.
Look, I'd be totally okay with moving on from him, but at the same time, it's like, look what they did with runners in scoring position. Yes, I agree a culture needs to change. Yes, I agree he needs to do something else except the same old tired routine where, yeah, we're good enough and we're just going to handle business. Yes, I agree. But at the end of the day, the players went 3 for 500 with runners in scoring position in 4 games. Okay. No, nothing a manager can say in that moment is gonna make or break that. It's the player's execution. So I don't blame him for losing this series. I'm more okay with letting him go because I think it's ridiculous that with these rosters and with these teams, they've only won 1 World Series with him. That is why, not because of this series.
No, I'm not saying it's because of this series, and I'm also not saying that it's entirely his fault. We know who is to blame. I put more of the onus on the players for not producing, for not doing what they've done all season long to manufacture runs and get the hit when they need it, or the sacrifice fly, or the pass the baton approach. None of that was applied in this series.
Totally. And I mean, it falls on the players, but whose job is it to prep them? It's the same story every year. They look dumb and can't hit with runners in scoring position. The manager isn't there to just hand out Girl Scout cookies. There's a work ethic, there's preparation, there's a mental aspect, and whatever Dave Roberts is preaching or letting these guys do, it's gone on long enough, and it's clearly not translating to October baseball. Start a new meeting there.
Yeah.
Another thing that wasn't brought up, which is worth addressing, is the 7 through 9 hitters in that game 4 went 1 for 12. So the lineup construction with Dave Roberts choosing to bench Cody Bellinger, having Trace Thompson start in center field. Didn't hate it, but Chris Taylor starting out in left field over maybe Joey Gallo or Cody Bellinger, Trace Thompson, whatever. Did not pan out. Chris Taylor went 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. Gavin Lux went 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. And Trace Thompson went 1 for 4.
I remember Roberts saying something to the effect that the reason he I don't want to say the reason, but one of the main reasons he started Chris Taylor was because he thought that Chris Taylor deserved it.
What the fuck does that mean?
2 games in a row.
Who the fuck cares? Start the fucking best player.
And that to me is like, what are you saying? Has Chris Taylor shown you anything that would let you to believe that he should be in there? And no disrespect to Chris Taylor, because he has been a guy in the postseason for the Dodgers for a long time. So no, not discrediting him there, but he had a really bad season and he was hurt and he was injured going into this series. There was a question if he was going to make it at one point. So he wasn't 100%. He didn't look 100%. He was an automatic strikeout up there. So you're telling me that you'd rather have that in there than over Cody Bellinger or Joey Gallo, who could potentially both run into one at some point?
Here's the problem, though, and I'm not saying starting Taylor was the right call, but the alternatives were all bad.
Okay.
So I get what you're saying, but it's not like we were sitting Reggie Jackson on the bench. Like,
yeah,
any single one of those players could have had the same performance. So you pick your poison, And I agree, you probably should have gone with Cody Bellinger, but he hadn't shown you much to really say, like, you can go with this guy with full confidence. He went 1 for 7 in this series with 4 strikeouts.
I know, because he barely got an opportunity to play. He got one game and then he got pinch hit for in a crucial spot by Austin Barnes. I mean, I don't know. I just think that, and again, Trace Thompson made an incredible catch in game 4, robbing, I think it was Brandon Drury. But so there was no hit there defensively, but I mean, I would rather have the best defensive outfield out there if the offense is a wash, if one bat is not necessarily that much more imposing than another. Don't you want a guy out there that can be a part of the best defense possible? And also, why are we going away from this platoon thing that we've done all season long? Put the lefty up against a righty. You never know. I would rather take my chances with that than going with Chris Taylor, who didn't have one quality at bat the entire series.
And you look at the flip side of that, Trent Grisham was awesome for the Padres.
Awesome.
Austin Nola was electric for the Padres.
Bottom of that order.
They were ready. I mean, Mookie Betts went 2 for 14 with 1 RBI. Trey Turner went 6 for 18 with 2 home runs, the 2 RBIs. Freddie 5 for 14, a home run, multiple RBIs. Will Smith 3 for 16. Justin Turner 2 for 13, 0 RBIs. Cody Bellinger, already said 1 for 7, 4 strikeouts. It was a mess. Justin Turner, man.
You want to talk about Justin Turner now?
Yeah, I do. I have some stats that I pulled up too.
All right, Justin Turner time.
Except after his wild card home run against St. Louis yesterday, in the playoffs, Justin Turner 1 for 20 against the Giants, 2 for 10 against Atlanta last year, and 2 for 13 against San Diego. That's 5 for 43 since his wild card home run.
Yeah,
that's unacceptable.
Wait, are you talking about Chris Taylor's wild card home run?
Justin Turner.
Justin Turner, and for the full picture, he's hitting 128 since the beginning of the 2021 postseason.
Oh, that's right. He did hit a home run in that game.
Yes, he did. It's time. It pains me to say it, but it's time. He's reached the end. Can he be a serviceable bench bat off the bench? Yes, but it's time. You can't have that in the postseason. You just can't. And as long as he's on the team, Dave Roberts doesn't have the heart to bench him. You could have benched Justin Turner in that game. He was the DH. You could have started Austin
You don't
Barnes.
bench him against Joe Musgrove.
Okay, fine. But in the game prior, you could have benched him. You could have benched him in any of these games. But Dave Roberts, the point is, I'm not saying it was the right move to bench him. I'm saying, had it been the right move to bench him, Dave Roberts wouldn't have done it because he's Justin Turner, because of the career he's had with the Dodgers. And that never works out. Look at the Cardinals with Yadier Molina. I mean, he has not been good for what? Offensively for years. They can't bench him in the playoffs. They're just not going to do it. And we've reached that point with Justin Turner. And it sucks because he's forever a Dodgers legend, but it's time. I mean, what? 5 for 43 since the wild card game against St. Louis in the postseason?
Yeah, I'm with you. And
with no extra base hits.
Well, that's what I was saying all year long, is that Justin Turner was clogging up Miguel Vargas's spot. And if you weren't playing Justin Turner so much, you could get more at bats to Miguel Vargas, and maybe he would have actually gotten some plate appearances this postseason because you had more to work with.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but also Justin Turner did turn it around and had a pretty solid regular season for his age. So
he did.
I mean, if he continued to kind of perform the way he did in the first half, then yeah, I totally am with you on that. And again, his performance in the postseason is just not what it used to be, obviously. And yeah, you could make an argument to have benched him. They weren't going to.
There was no game where you could bench him other than maybe game 1 or game 2, though. You're not benching him against Blake Snell. You don't bench the right-handed bat against the lefty, and then you can't bench him against Joe Musgrove after all the regular season success.
I agree, but that's not my point. My point is you could get the worst matchup ever ever for Justin Turner. Whoever he is the worst at in baseball, he could be 0 for 50 against someone, and Dave Roberts would not bench him in the postseason. That's my point.
So this
and
was a major talking point 2 years ago, and you guys strongly disagreed with me. So you're okay with Justin Turner retiring elsewhere?
You mean playing for another team?
Yeah.
Retiring elsewhere. Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
He has a team option. I think it's worth $20 million. If they decline it, he's a free agent. He has not given any signals whatsoever that he's willing to hang it up. And after his second half surge, I kind of find it hard to believe that he would retire.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
it's a tough call.
They're not gonna do the $16 million option. Like, he's got a team option for $16 million. I'd be surprised if they do that. I really would. But I mean, you got to give. Why are you going to have any prospects if you're not going to let them have a chance to make the team and start? You know, I mean, that's my one criticism with the Dodgers organization is they baby these prospects for years. They don't give them a full runway to just say, here's the job.
It's because they're too loyal to the vets, and this was something that I kind of had been on an island on for a while, and why I wouldn't give Justin Turner that 3 or 4 year contracts because of these exact scenarios. And yeah, he proved me wrong this season, I guess, by turning it on the second half. But when it mattered most, he faded. And last season, when it mattered most, he faded. I don't want to blame his age, but I really do think his age is why he can't keep up with the most electrifying pitchers. I don't care if he's able to go off against the Rockies or bad Giants pitchers or the Reds, all that. That's exactly this regular season problem. You face a bunch of mediocre scrubs, you pile up the wins, you think you got something good, then you face the best of the best and you crumble into dirt.
Yeah, I mean, if they decided to let him go, I think I would be okay with it. I don't think I was okay with it prior to him signing that new deal. I thought that he earned that, and I'm happy that we gave it to him. But yeah, the thing that I wanted to touch on real quick, 2 players that I wanted to touch on. One of them, Mookie Betts.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. What happened, dude? Like, what happened? He
looked
like
checked out.
2 for
Completely
14.
checked out.
2 for 14. It's a 143 clip, 1 extra base hit. It was a double, 1 RBI. He didn't even get on base, 278 on base percentage. Just unacceptable. I mean, if he wasn't going to hit, at least get on. At least
he did score 2 runs in game 4.
Okay.
Are you paying a guy $360 million to score 2 runs?
He had a really bad series, and
we talked about this. We brought up what happened in the Phillies series with the Braves. Bryce Harper carried that team.
Yep.
Why are we bringing up Bryce Harper? How is that relevant to this
same
conversation?
contract?
Same
contract.
Hold on.
Team leader, same contract.
Bryce Harper hasn't been in the postseason his entire
That's
Phillies
not my
contract
point.
until now.
Not my point.
Relevant.
Hold on.
Different pitchers.
Okay. Would you let me finish? Hold on. I'm making a point here. The point I'm making is I'm not making the point that we should have Bryce Harper versus Mookie Betts. What I am saying is that Bryce Harper is the star of that team. Mookie Betts is the star of this team. Where did he go? Why wasn't he carrying this offense? You know, this offense really kicks into gear when he is carrying it, when he is the spark plug, and he was nowhere to be found. And it was like he left no footprint on this series. It was just bad. He came up in a ton of situations where he could have come through and didn't.
Yeah, he had an awful series. It is what it is. Got to move on. Bryce Harper had a lot of bad postseason series up until this year. So
I'm just saying
every dog has their day. Mookie Betts went 4 for 4 against the Giants in that do or die game a year ago. It just didn't happen this year. I don't know what to say.
Well, remember
what
that.
What do you got to say?
You know, I mean, that's what I was trying to make the point last week is, you know, except for a couple guys here and there, the postseason is pretty random. You know, there's not one guy he sucks in the postseason every year. Like, I just don't put any stock in that. I just don't. But if you're paying a guy $360 million, you can't suck in the playoffs. You just can't. Period. You know, they're not
Well,
paying
they're not all
you.
Derek Jeter. They can't come through every year.
I agree with that, but there's a reason the Dodgers lost this series, and he's at one of the top of the list of those reasons. I mean, he is.
I agree. He was bad this series. I've said that over and over. I agree. But to doom and gloom and reflect, oh, well, this guy's going off. Well, he had plenty of bad series too. It happens to everybody. It would just happen that this year it was Mookie Betts, and we got eliminated.
Yep.
He was there in 2020. He was there in 2021.
I agree.
You're right about that. You're 100% right about that. And he had a really good regular season, and he's one of the reasons why the Dodgers won 111 games. So there's no discounting that. It was just very frustrating to watch. The other one that I was frustrated to see was Will Smith. And we kind of touched on it earlier. Again, 188, 3 for 16 clip, only 2 RBIs, only 2 extra base hits, 2 doubles, and an abysmal 177 on base percentage. From the guy in the cleanup spot, it's just unacceptable. And he came up a lot of times with runners on base to be able to put a game out of reach, take the lead, whatever. He was up in those clutch spots, and he just never came through. The only time he really did was in game 4 when he hit a sac fly. But even then, it's like the bases loaded. You have them on the ropes. I get it. You got to get at least one run. And a lot of times we don't even get that one run with the bases loaded and nobody out. So I get all that, but it's just, I don't know. These guys, they just had so many opportunities to knock these guys out, and they just couldn't come through.
Very frustrating all the way around.
I would like to talk about the roster decisions that we have, because
who stays and who goes.
There's quite a lot. And I have this mapped out. So I'm going to list out the contracts that are off the books. Okay. Justin Turner, $16 million. Yes, they have a team option for the same price. Trey Turner, $21 million off the books. Kershaw, $17 million off the books. Price, $15 million. Kimbrel, $16 million. Heaney and Anderson, $8.5 million each. Tommy Kahnle, $4 million. Gallo, $3 million. Hanser Alberto, $2 million. That's a lot of money off the books. And obviously all those guys are not going to come back. And I think the main one that's going to set the tone of the rest of the roster and how they're going to spend is obviously Trey Turner. I think there's going to be a couple guys who they would like to bring back for cheap, which they'll be able to do. But it's going to start with Trey Turner. And after all those guys come off the books, their payroll drops nearly $150 million to under $120 million total. So that is a ton of financial flexibility.
But that doesn't include arbitration, right?
Correct. It does not include arbitration for Bellinger,
Urias,
Trace Thompson, which won't be much, Rios, Dustin May, and Smith, which are not going to be that much either. So it's not going to be a huge shift in arbitration. Urias and Bellinger would be the two main ones.
I was in the extend Trey Turner camp for pretty much the whole season. And I think I would be fine if they were to extend him, or at this point sign him. I'd be fine with that. But I think overall I'm leaning towards no. I just didn't see what I wanted to see over these last 2 postseasons. Again, 2021, he wasn't good at all. And in this series, he did hit the ball well. He had an OPS over 1,000, and he hit 333, but the defense and just the focus in the playoffs, it just was so concerning to me. It was just so bad. And not just bad defense, right? The defense that affected the outcomes of these games. You look at game 2. I mean, that game was a winnable game. In fact, all of them were, obviously. And the fact that he booted that ball and a run came across, and it just, I don't know. Then there was that ball that he ran into left field in San Diego.
Oh, God.
And he called off, I think it was Thompson out there. It was Taylor. He called him off.
That's Taylor's ball.
No, it's not. Trey Turner called it all the way. It
doesn't matter, bro.
No, it does matter, because if Taylor tries to get in there, it's going to be a collision.
No,
Trey Turner was full speed.
The outfielder
It does matter.
Always.
It
No.
absolutely does matter when Trey Turner isn't giving whatsoever. And if Taylor were to try to get in there too, they're going to collide.
Here's the thing. Here's 2 points. That is always the outfielder's ball if he calls it off. My second, always. And that goes to my second point. Chris Taylor is too damn quiet and nice. Period. He needs to be screaming at the top of his lungs. That's my ball. Ball. Mine. I. Whatever the fuck you say to call it, that's what you fucking do. That is the outfielder's ball, period. Yes, he looked like a fool dropping that, but that is on Chris Taylor and Chris Taylor alone.
Not. It's not on Chris
100%.
Taylor. If you're calling off the ball, you better make the catch.
That's what I was gonna say. He got to make that catch.
That easily. He pulled up 3 feet short before the ball even got to Turner's glove.
Because Trey Turner was aggressively calling for it.
He should be until he gets called off.
What?
Yeah, but the ball, David, the ball was in his mitt. You got to make that catch. I agree that it was Chris Taylor's ball and he should have called him off and all of that. I get all that, but Trey Turner called for it. He had the ball in his glove. You got to make that catch.
I mean, look, the flip side of that is you have Corey Seager at shortstop. He doesn't even come close to catching it. And Chris Taylor floats underneath it gingerly and makes the catch. So yeah, in that regard, Corey Seager is a better defender because he won't even been in the position to make the play.
Yeah, that's IQ right there. I wish we had Corey Seager's defense this postseason because the worst Corey Seager ever did a single postseason series was maybe 1 air tops. I saw 3 from Trey Turner, and that was a riveting theme all regular season, carried over into the postseason. He got the home run off Mike Clevenger. He got another home run that kind of boosted his OPS.
Off of Darvish,
yes. That tied it 3-3. But he also came up in a lot of critical spots where he didn't come through. He had a second and third in the 7th inning of one of the games. He grounded out. He had the 4-3 air. That's so that the first air we were talking about was a 3-3 game. That air when Gratterall was pitching, that allowed the Padres to take a 4-3 lead. In game 3, Mookie Betts had a single or something, and Trey Turner striked out. My notes are shitty here, but the point is, I remember Trey Turner coming up in a lot of critical spots. Second and third, 1 out. That was game 3, I think, after Mookie Betts got the sac fly. Taylor fouled out to shallow first base.
So basically my overall point is that I'm on the fence about whether I would want him to come back or not. And I think that I would be okay with either outcome. But I'm not as 100% confident as I was during the regular season.
I'm just not comfortable giving him $300 million. The defense is showing it's declined. The shift is going to be gone. That's going to make it even harder on him to field. His steals are down. He had 27. This guy used to be a 40-something steal guy a year. The OPS was barely above 800. He's about to be 30. So you're paying him you're paying him for what he's done in the past versus what you're going to get out of him in the future. I just don't see how he's going to be better. He's hit his peak.
I could go either way. I think he was absolutely phenomenal this season. I think his bat showed up, not in necessarily the exact spots he wanted it to in the postseason, but I think he did show up. I think the defense just was one of those series. It happens. I'm not really too concerned about his defense whatsoever. I think he needs a goddamn new mitt. That's for sure. He said he's had it for 5 years or whatever, but I would like to see him back because he was a major producer of offense for this Dodgers team that won 111 games. He was awesome in the regular season. And like Jake said, what was he, 6 for 14 in the postseason? What was
6
it?
6 for 18.
6 for 18 in the postseason, 2 home runs, 1,100 OPS. Yeah,
only
not
2
necessarily.
RBIs.
Yeah, 2 solo home runs, 2 RBIs. Yes, in the spots you needed those hits, you didn't get them. But again, it's the same thing with what you just said about Mookie Betts. It was one of those postseasons. It just didn't happen when we needed it to happen. So I would like to see him back. I would like to see 7 or 8 years for 250, 260 million. If someone wants to pay him 300 million, so be it. We'll be fine. Gavin Lux has shown he belongs in this league. You don't necessarily need to have a power hitting shortstop. You need a guy who can get on base and play solid defense. which Gavin Lux is going to have to work on as well. But there's options. Michael Bush can step in at second. I mean, he's already 24 years old. It's time to start letting these prospects have a chance.
All right, yeah, I'd like to jump in because they're kind of contradicting your point. If you want to shake up the culture, why would you bring Trey Turner back? He's one of the guys that showed zero emotion.
Because he's one of the best players in baseball, for starters. There's ways to shake up the culture without getting rid of one of your two or three best players.
Then it's appropriate to talk about a guy you didn't bring up who's gone, and that's Cody Bellinger. The end of the line is here. He's either going to get non-tendered or traded. What they did with him in that game 4 by benching it says it all. He's had back-to-back bad seasons. His only silver lining was the 2021 postseason. I was promised he would come through this October. He didn't show up at all. He looked his all-time worst. He was swinging out of the zone a shit ton. The defense isn't going to save him. The end of the line is here for Cody Bellinger. And if you really want to shake up this culture, this roster, he is the odd man out right there, because right now he's adding nothing to this Dodgers team at all.
Watch him go and tear it up somewhere else.
That's going to happen, I think. I really do think it's going to happen. I mean,
there's something weird going on with him and Dave Roberts. I don't know what it is.
Yep.
It's a weird thing, and he may thrive under another manager.
I think so too. And it pains me to see it. I do see the writing on the wall. I mean, I've never really seen Dave Roberts act this way towards any player, literally ever. So, I mean, it's an unfortunate situation. I would like to see them try to mend it and at least give him a chance to play out a contract year and see if he can turn it on, because players do that very much so. Contract year, they just somehow become great. So I would like to see that in a Dodgers uniform. At the same time, you're not going to miss much on offense given the last 2 seasons. You're going to miss the defense a lot, but you got a guy who came up for about a week who is ready to step in and give his best shot at taking that center field job in James Outman. So they got options, but if this is the end, it's an unfortunate end because he was such an electric Dodger for about 3.5 years.
Craig Kimbrell's gone, unless you had something to add more about Bellinger.
No.
Kimbrell's gone. I think there's no argument there. David Price is gone.
He's probably going to retire.
Tyler Anderson, I think we'd all love to see the Dodgers re-sign him.
Please, I'd love to have him back.
It will come down to money, though. But he did it all. He led the team in innings. He didn't miss a start. He didn't complain. He did show some fire on the mound from time to time. Kind of reminded me of a less passionate Rich Hill, but still got it done Big Daddy style.
Real hard hat guy, lunch pail guy.
He was great. What more could you have asked for him?
Literally nothing.
Elimination game. I mean, just was dominant and efficient and overpowering. And definitely could have seen him go out there and pitch at least one more inning. I would have loved to see that. But what he did in those 5 innings was remarkable.
And if they can't re-sign Tyler Anderson because maybe he's just too big of a market guy, I would like to see Andrew Heaney come back as a fallback. I thought as a back-end rotation guy, he was fantastic. I was going to put you guys on blast to make apologies, but the Dodgers lost, so it doesn't fucking matter anymore. But
I'll give my apology. I don't mind. I was the harshest critic of Andrew Heaney, and he came through and cleaned up Tony Gonsolin's mess. That was a brutal watch for Tony Gonsolin, even though he had been injured going into that. Boy, that was disappointing. But the way Andrew Heaney came in there and cleaned it up, he gave up his token home run that he always does. But the good thing was that it was a solo shot. Unfortunately, it was the difference in the game because the offense
called that on Twitter too.
Yeah, the offense didn't help him out or anybody out at all. I feel bad about bashing him. I still am a little worried that he's not reliable in the sense of his health, but I agree with Kevin. I think that if they brought him back for a back end of the rotation spot, what they've done with him, the way that they've changed him, I think that it can only go up from here.
Tommy Kahnle, I'd bring him back.
I would too.
I know David made a strong point of why you couldn't pitch him in that scenario, but I looked it up. He had 15 postseason appearances prior to this outing or prior to this postseason. He had 2017 and 2019 with the Yankees, pretty high level market. So he's had the experience. If they can get him on a good deal, I'll welcome him back.
And he looked really sharp down the stretch and really sharp up until that last
until he didn't. Yeah.
Of course, Clayton Kershaw, free agent, would love to have him back.
He's coming back.
He's coming back to pitch for sure. Hopefully it's with the Dodgers.
It will be.
And then a guy that is in arbitration, but I think his time with the Los Angeles Dodgers is over, Edwin Rios. I mean, the fact that they didn't even give him a September call-up and just let him sit in AAA kind of speaks volume to where he's at in the organization. I just don't see it.
I disagree. And I'll tell you why. I think if they do part ways with Justin Turner, I think they'll give him a chance. I'm not saying he's going to make the roster, but I think in spring training, I think they'll give him a chance.
As a backup third baseman, I'm all for it.
I'm saying I think they're going to give him a chance to win the starting job.
Well, I think, Muncy and Vargas can split time at third base.
Well, I'm putting Muncy at DH.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see who they sign. I guess that's
but if Turner's gone, I think Rios is at least going to be given a chance.
I'm not so sure. So we were asked by Ryan Stahl _ who stays, who goes. So we answered that. I'm going to read out some listener things in a second. Young Jeremy.
I do have one thing really quick. I just want to say while we're talking about this roster, they need to give Bobby Miller and Gavin Stone a chance to win a rotation spot from the start. We've babied pitchers for too long. You look at other organizations. Look what the Braves did with Spencer Strider. Okay, he was drafted, I want to say, in 2019. He is like one of their best pitchers. Yes, he kind of shit his pants in the playoffs in his last start, but that's irrelevant. He had an awesome regular season. I think he should have made an all-star team, or if he didn't, he should have. The Dodgers need to give Bobby Miller and Gavin Stone a chance to win a legitimate rotation spot. Not just here's an experienced start in spring training and we'll see if we see maybe at the end of the year. No, I've had enough of the babying. I've had enough. We saw it in Game 3. You need pitching. You need starters who are available. Okay, you can't rely on a 45 pitch count from Tony Gonsolin, who's hurt. You can't do that in the playoffs. You have the second highest payroll in baseball. You have 111 wins, and in a postseason game, in a 1-to-1 series, you're sending out a guy whose pitch count is 40 pitches, who's thrown one start of 2 innings since he got injured. You can't do that. Give these two guys a legitimate chance to win a spot in the rotation.
They're going to do that, and I don't know why you're bringing them up, because first of all, in 2019, they gave Tony Gonsolin and Dustin May legitimate chances as rookies. 2020, the entire minor league season was canceled.
It took forever to bring them up.
I don't think so. Dustin May is still really young. And anyway, so in 2021, where I was going with, they didn't have anybody ready, so nothing you could do there. This season, they gave Ryan Pepio, they gave Michael Grove spot starts. But the bottom line is the Dodgers rotation was deep, and they had the guys with this Game 3 too. They had a plan with Gonsolin. It didn't work out. Andrew Heaney came up and cleaned it up. Dustin May was there. He hurt himself. It happens. Bobby Miller didn't have a great minor league season until the second half. You can't rush him in there. And Gavin Stone literally was in, I think, single A to start the year.
This year. I'm saying the start of next year.
I mean, they're going to. Like, there's no reason not to.
Hope so.
I would not stress about that. So yeah, young Jeremy, 18. Any key free agents? I haven't even thought about free agency. I don't know any players that I would want the Dodgers to target.
Edwin Diaz.
We should do that at a different episode, or
like
a full off season.
Yeah.
Aaron Judge.
Jacob deGrom.
I'll just do some quick shout outs real quick. So Dodge 16_12. How quick do you think the Dodgers fire Dave Roberts? We talked about that. I am not a pagan. Went on a huge Twitter rant in our mentions that you should read, but he basically called this the biggest underachieving season ever. And I agree.
Fair.
Chewy, the truth. What will it take to move Roberts? Probably another postseason early exit. Blue Heaven 466. What is the biggest organizational change needed? Covered that.
Culture.
Castillo, Jason just wants people fired. I think that's going to happen. And then
Just robes Pierre over there. Just guillotine.
Roscoe X Sweat.
That was an elite history joke. If you're listening, I hope you can recognize that.
I recognized it.
And then Roscoe X Sweat was just basically dumbfounded of just what went wrong with this team. So thank you, listeners.
In that series.
They need to find some players with a give a shit attitude. They need to find that. They need to find all of these playoff teams that do well. They have this hype about them. And that 2020 team did. And look, they won the title. They had those guys. They had those hungry guys. Even Mookie was fired up.
Yep.
I mean, that's what it was sorely missing these past 2 seasons.
Agree. They need to get some role player. Like, we have enough stars, even without Trey Turner, they got enough stars at the top. They need some role players who are fighting for their damn livelihoods and fighting for a big contract. That's what they need. They need guys who show emotion. They need guys who are fighting to earn their place in this league and to earn a contract. That's what they need.
Next season, you'll see way more of Miguel Vargas. You'll see a lot of James Outman. You'll see Michael Bush. They're going to have that next class generation of guys. Hopefully that's a cultural shift that is badly needed. Out with the old, in with the new. On that note, is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up real quick?
The one thing I wanted to say real quick is how are all of our mentions doing? Because my God,
yeah,
I David, you and Kevin, you too, but David's the king of getting, shit on all the time. I don't usually experience this. I've never been dumped on like this in my life. It's just every hour I get about 35 new notifications about, they keep dunking on me because I put out this tweet basically saying that the Dodgers ripped the Padres' hearts out of their chest and stomped on it and unfortunately it had to have been tweeted on September 11th. And it's just making the rounds again. And I honestly, I think the Padres fans have deserved that much. I mean, they're ruthless and they're insane. And, this is a huge thing for them. So have at it, guys.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for taking this on the chin. I'm a veteran at this. I give out more shit than anybody to Padres fans. So you can imagine what my mentions are like and my DMs. It is a complete.
The DM is so great.
Oh, that's not even the worst one. I'm going to read one right now. This is from Carson at Raisin92118. L, pussy, you deserve all the hate you get. You're an utter piece of shit. Okay. That's
light work.
That is one of the nicer ones. Okay. And it's not just the DMs, it's everything. You know what? I'm taking it on the chin. The Padres showed up. If I need to take this ratio and DMs, so be it.
The receipts are longer than CVS receipts.
Yep.
Yeah, I called Josh Hader a notorious choker when they acquired him, and I've been getting retweeted nonstop ever since. But yeah, I am staying off Twitter for a couple weeks. I just am over sports at this point.
I literally after the last out, I got QT'd by Ben and Woods. Just immediately, it was the quickest. I was like, "Holy shit!" Right off the bat.
No,
I will say,
it's been nonstop for me.
I will say this. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there was a late entry into Idiot of the Week, Idiot of the Year. The LA Times an editorial opinion article.
Said the worst.
They want to cancel the 2022 postseason because the Dodgers had the best record, and it should be awarded to the best team regular season wise. And it's just a really bad look. I mean,
nobody wants that. And stop making Dodgers fans look like shit.
Yeah, seriously, we have to answer for that online.
Yep.
We do. We have to say we don't claim this.
He wasn't even a Dodger fan. The guy was a Cubs fan.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
For the LA Times.
Yeah.
I will say this. It's one thing to be beat by a better team and to be outplayed in every facet of the game, but it's another thing to not play up to the standards that you know that your team is capable of. I mean, the thing is like, yeah, you can make arguments that they lost in 2017, how much did the cheating really take effect or not? But the fact is they were there. They went to a game 7, they fought, they played as hard as they could. And I think that they did play up to their standards in a lot of different ways in 2017. But this 2019 and 2022 were not even close to the level that we're used to seeing from this team. And so that's why it's more frustrating than it were to be if we just got knocked out by the better team.
We miss Jock Peterson's energy.
We miss Kike Hernandez's energy
too.
Yep.
There's a lot that needs to be fixed. So thank you guys for listening to the Incline Dodgers podcast throughout the 2022 season. Next things that's due up is 2023. You'll hear from us all off season long as we just go on the nostalgia train, I guess. And the Incline Awards will be back for its second year. So we'll announce the nominations and all that soon. But in the meantime, please just subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and give us 5 stars. But man, I'll say it for all of us. FUCK this season. Go Dodgers.